Khoury is the co-director of the Global Engagement at the American University of Beirut. He was at that event at the UN General Assembly. He joins us now live from there. Rami, what did you make of it?
I thought it was very predictable in terms of what people said, the political positions of so many speakers, including the Palestinian president. But the real drama was the fact that it was held, that the United Nations, as the premier international body responsible for peacemaking and stability and development, held this officially according to a vote of the General Assembly last year. That's the real important thing, that the UN was involved in, was a player in the partition of Palestine in the 1947 vote, and now is a player again in commemorating the Nakba for the Palestinians, the catastrophe of the Palestinians. So this is important symbolically, but it's significant because it also piles on more pressure onto many existing dynamics around the world: public opinion, media coverage, social media, Palestinians speaking out, boycott movements against Israeli criminal activity. All of these things are going on at the same time around the world, and this is one more a bit in terms of seeing the pendulum swing towards more justice between Palestinians and Israelis, so that ultimately there could be a Palestinian self-determinant state next to an Israeli state that already exists, living with equal rights. That's the significance, I think.
But is the pendulum swinging? Dozens of articles in international law and UN General Assembly resolutions condemning Israeli actions in the occupied Palestinian territories. Israel continuing to flout them. I mean, what real recourse do Palestinians have?
Right now, they don't have much, except the most powerful thing that exists anywhere in the world, which is public opinion that is mobilized, organized, and focused on achieving a legitimate end. And that's what the Palestinians are trying to do, like the civil rights movement in the United States, like the Me Too movement all over the world, like the climate change movement all over the world, like the anti-apartheid South African movement. That's what the Palestinians have. It's their only real practical means of waging their struggle, and they're using it quite well, despite having a rather incompetent government, unfortunately. And this is the real struggle. The battle line today between Palestine and Israel is not only Gaza and Israel and Lebanon and Israel and the West Bank, but it's also those processes in the United States and Europe where the Israelis are trying to silence Palestinian voices, not even let them speak on campus or speak in the media or be hired in the media. And the pushback now, which is really significant among dozens and dozens of very professional young Palestinian lawyers, activists, educators, researchers, academics, journalists, organizers, community organizers. This is the new reality. This is what's new now that didn't exist in 1948 and certainly didn't exist in 1917 when the British, in their imperial complicity, essentially gave Palestine to the Zionists to create a Jewish home. And that happened in 1948. Israel was created legitimately with UN approval, and then it has expanded ever since. Yeah. The Palestinians were never able to push back. Today, they are able, all over the world in many different fora, and this UN move is one more example of that.
Rami, over the years, there have been an increasing number of calls to abandon the two-state solution as it's now seen as simply unachievable. I mean, do you think it is still feasible, or rather, do you think a one-state solution is actually feasible, especially as you know, in Israel today we have the most right-wing government that the country has possibly ever seen?
Right. So what you've just mentioned is showing the sort of bad news that's going on: the Israeli settlement expansion, the violence of the settlers, all the terrible racism and apartheid policies the Israeli government is doing, and the inability of the Palestinians to really stop any of that. The good news is that people all over the world, especially Palestinians and many Jews, are rethinking now what's possible. And as you said, a two-state solution looks very difficult right now in the current circumstances. And a one-state possibility is preferable to most people, but it's also almost impossible because the Israelis won't do it. The Israelis want a Jewish state. Zionism is for a state for the Jewish people. It's not for a state for the Jewish and the Palestinian and Arab people. It's for the Jewish people. So the Israelis refuse to do it. So we don't know what's going to happen. But as a very good book that just came out in the United States, The One-State Reality by several very good American scholars, says the reality is, on the ground, one state, which is dominated by Israel, and the Palestinians are treated like blacks in apartheid South Africa. That's the reality. It's not a formal one state, but it is on the ground one state. How to change that situation is the big challenge everybody is exploring. And there's people looking at other ideas, confederation, parallel states, other kinds of associations, but these are for the future, not for now. But it can happen because South Africa changed, Northern Ireland changed, other intractable conflicts changed as well.
Always good to talk to you, Rami. Many thanks indeed for being with us. Rami Khoury there, who's at the UN in New York.